Welcome to What Is It All For? A podcast designed to help you grow your online business and pursue a spacious, satisfying life at the same time. We're your hosts, Jason and Caroline Zook, and we run Wandering Aimfully, an unboring business coaching program. Every week, we bring you advice and conversations to return you to your most intentional self and to help you examine every aspect of your life and business by asking, what is it all for? Thanks for listening, and now let's get into the show.
And I'm here too.
Now, do you remember any of the cliffhangers / breadcrumbs that you left in last episode where you're like, oh, we'll talk about this in the preamble tops of the next episode?
Oh, no. Oh, wait. What
story of your life?
What was the preamble top I wanted to bring up in this episode? I do have two. Oh, because I always do. You know I always have. I'm always available for preamble tops.
It was something about traveling or something.
I don't know. First preamble top.
Was it the Airbnb story? Did we say we would do that?
Oh, you want to share that? Yeah, we can share that.
Okay, let's share that.
Three preamble tops.
Three preamble tops.
Okay, first...
If they're a new listener, tell them what a preamble top is.
The preamble top...
I like to do it every once in a while.
Hey, can you?
You're fine.
No, can you? Thank you. Preamble top, for those of you who are brand new, because we've had an influx of 2 new listeners. Mm-hmm. So for you 2 new listeners...
We're up to
Hello,
14.
Sean. Hello, Micah. Our 2 new listeners. Probably no one named Sean or Micah listens to the show, which is fun. Anyway, this is our preamble topics.
That's
so,
right.
you listen to a podcast. Like if you listen to popular podcasts, their preamble topics are 7 minutes of ads. And
right.
You're just like, fast forward. Like I can't fast forward enough. Now, potentially, you might do that with our show if you're like, get to the episode content, get to the episode content.
Some people probably hate the preamble tops. Other people are like, I hate the business content. I'm here for the preamble tops.
I don't even look at our Apple reviews anymore because who does that anymore? No one does it. That's old hat.
Somebody who just left a review feels really special.
Do they? Are there any? I don't even know where to look anymore. But we get emails from people.
Yes.
And some of the emails that we've received in the past couple months are... When I started listening, I didn't want the preamble top.
Hated the preamble tops.
And now it's what I look forward to the most.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're like the rest of the episode. Okay, 3 preamble tops. First preamble top, an update on the are you a top sheeter and are you a feet tucker with your comforter?
There's a lot of very heated... passionate opinions.
Debates. Yeah, I would say happening. One thing that I found very interesting, there are many Slaughterhouse 9 fans. Believers. Yeah, Slaughterhouse 9 believers. If your feet slip out of that comforter...
They're coming for you.
The machete just lops your feet off.
Yeah,
and I know
to
that's
catch you
horrible,
up to speed, if you have not listened to the Top Sheet episode, Jason has an irrational belief that if any part of his bottom half of his body is hanging out of a comforter or sheet, that somebody's coming to slaughter.
There is a murderer, and like his machete tingles. It's just like... And he goes, shing, and he takes it out, and he comes right from my feet. And I got to suck him back in. Now, we have other people like you who just, right now, this is why I'm remembering this, your feet are just out from under this blanket.
Because we've talked about this. It is a thermoregulating device.
That's how I take my internal temperature, and I go from 0 to 2.
How was that? Was it good? Was that you?
What is going from 0 to 2?
I don't know. Not at all. No idea. Anyway, I think the overwhelming consensus was with me. Keep your feet tucked in.
Oh, okay.
We did have plenty of people, though, that were not feet or tucker inners, so that's okay. You can do that if you want.
Yeah.
The one other update that I really liked, which I think we're going to definitely do when we're traveling full time,
is,
if we can, double comforter.
Yes, this is a new hack.
This is a big move. This is a life hack I did not even think about.
Because when you're at home and you both have for many years figured out your comforter situation.
Yeah.
I know he knows just the right amount that he can take without leaving me high and dry.
One comforter at home that we have, it works.
It works. Okay, but when you're in a new place, in a new Airbnb,
we've been trying this out.
Different comforters. Yeah. You don't know the.
You don't know by
width. Feel.
You don't know the width.
You don't know the width. You don't know the weight. Yeah. You don't know how it slinks off your body in the middle of the night, and so it can be cause for some marital disputes.
How many centimeters are we working with here? Do I get my appropriate 47 centimeters and you get your appropriate 41 centimeters? We can't do that on the road. I'm not going to bring a measuring tape into the bed.
I'm sorry. Yeah. You know the amount of centimeters of blanket that you want?
No, not at all. I just said that, and I did it authoritatively.
How many times have we talked about this? My God. You say things so...
Confidently.
Yeah.
What did we say that it was last night in the car?
Serious sarcasm.
Seriously sarcastic.
Seriously sarcastic.
Yeah, that's me.
So you deliver your sarcasm with such seriousness
Yes.
that people, including my mother, my best friend from college, have gone so far as to be like, can you tell me when you're being serious or
I
not?
don't know
Can you do a quick follow-up to be like,
Yeah.
sarcastic,
I
in
don't
a
know if-
sarcastic
I don't know
tone?
if Brooke listens to this podcast, but
Hey,
I
Brooke.
do love that Brooke. I just hung out with her the other day.
This is my friend from college.
Yeah, and she was like, "I need you to start this
need
with
you to start
I'm
it."
being sarcastic
Yes.
because I cannot.
I can't tell. And it really, I don't know how to do this.
Yeah,
And then I
then I'll
realized,
say like something nice, and
Yeah.
she's like, "I don't know to believe that.
Yeah,
I don't know if
exactly.
I can believe that." Okay, so wrapping up the.
wait, can I tell a funny
Yeah, sure,
story?
sure.
She said she walked up in a conversation where you were talking to Rich, who is her husband, and you both were fully in a conversation where both of you were like, it's just so nice to have like an equal partnership in a marriage where
Yeah.
like you just feel like you really have a teammate. And
Yeah.
Brooke was like, are y'all
Yeah.
absolutely
Right.
shitting on me and Caroline right now, or are you being serious?
Yeah, and we were being
And
serious.
I thought that was so funny.
Yeah, that was great. Okay, so to wrap up the comforter discussion, while we're traveling, we've been trying this in 2 Airbnbs. This will segue nicely into our Airbnb debacle.
Mm-hmm.
We've been trying not 2 duvets or comforters, but mostly it's like, oh, there's a blanket in the closet. We'll give you the
get
blanket, or you get whatever.
and you get the comforter.
This has been working out well. We haven't
Yeah.
had any discrepancies.
I like it. I can like tangle myself
You
up.
can
I
do
can do
all-
my thermos.
Yeah, you got like half your body hanging out, and there's just like 7 guys in our room with machetes, like waiting.
Look at how brave I am.
Yeah, they haven't chopped any of your feet off
No,
those.
not
That's good.
yet.
All right, let's segue into the Airbnb saga.
Debacle. So
we're gonna have so many of
It's-
these next year.
It's a rite of passage.
Yeah, this is if you want our Airbnb diary, this is where we're gonna share it. And part of me really wants to, because we're gonna stay in at a minimum 20 Airbnbs
Oh,
in
yeah.
2022. I almost want to start just like a Airbnb story Tumblr,
like a
and
Yelp,
just share it.
a Yelp app just for Airbnbs that Jason and Caroline Zook
Yes,
stay
just
in.
but like also to leave the reviews of like interesting furniture choice here, and then like a photo of like this super obscure piece of furniture they nestled in a corner. Anyway, let's go to the debacle, and you can share
Okay,
it.
so
Set the stage.
I'll set the stage.
Yeah. Where are we coming from? How are we feeling?
Our first stop in our Florida saga is Vero Beach, Florida.
Yeah.
We search for, here are some things that we like in an Airbnb. Uniqueness, like a different vibe, but somewhat modern.
Yeah.
And, just like has a vibe. There wasn't a lot of modern in Vero Beach, Florida, but we found this little casita. It's called the Coconut Casita,
Yeah.
Vero Beach, Florida. It's a little guest house run by a couple, and it's not furnished in any type of way that is our normal style, but boy, is it just like cute.
Yeah, it's cute.
It has a personality. It's very like old Tropicana vibes in Florida. Lots of like botanical illustrations, a orange juicer on the counter. Anyway, very cute. Music, French Parisian music is playing upon
Wonderful.
arrival. Anyway,
Wonderful.
very great. So we're like, yes, like 10 out of 10.
Nailed it.
Yeah. First Airbnb, so great. The second Airbnb that we have lined up is in St. Augustine, Florida.
This is the oldest city in the United States, for those of you who don't know.
Yep. But it's this little modern, it's called the Wedge House. It's this little modern house that looks fairly new. But boy, did they go all out on the like decor.
Yeah,
every corner of it
I
has
would
a
recommend
personality.
if you're someone who is ready to subscribe to the Zook Airbnb diaries, but you want a preview, just Google St. Augustine Wedge House Airbnb. You will find this place, so you can see it. You
They
can know
did
what
a
we're
really
talking
great
about. But anyway,
job.
go on,
It's
please.
very like Instagrammable, I would
Yes.
say. They have like a full Instagram thing, and so it just was really cute. We were so excited. We walk in.
Sorry, I want to paint the mental picture real
Please
quick.
do.
Imagine like in Las Vegas if there was a hotel for influencers and like vibrant
An influencer house.
Yeah, an influencer house.
I know.
Go ahead.
It's very much, you don't watch The Circle on Netflix.
Yeah.
It's very much like a production team styled it to be on a television show.
Yeah, there's like bright colors. There was like a green brick
light
wall.
fixtures.
Light fixtures. There's like a
water-
photo backdrop wall.
A watercolor painted accent wall.
Yeah,
like,
there's bunk beds, but with
Yeah.
like really interesting like colors and things. And so anyway, hopefully you get the picture.
Very
of
cool. We were
walking into this
so
place.
excited.
Very different from the casita.
Yes, we were so excited. We walk in, and I will say that the decor 110% lived up to the photos.
Absolutely.
So that's the first thing you look for, right? Is like, is my expectation of this based on the photos match?
Yeah.
And it did. Now, upon walking in, there was this like strong smell that hit me in the face. That
Clean, like a clean smell.
It read like a clean smell. And so I was like, oh, they must have just cleaned the house. That's very nice of them. It felt almost, and then it sort
I
of.
like how you say it like not every Airbnb cleans before you
very
get
nice
there.
of them.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was so kind.
Nice of them.
You know.
But yeah, and so then it hit me. So first it hits me like, oh, it's clean. Then it hits me like, oh, they must have like disinfected like COVID stuff or whatever,
Yeah.
because it started to hit me as being more strong.
Yeah.
And so then I'm looking at Jason. He's like, oh yeah, that's strong. So then we think, okay, let's just open up the windows.
Well, before that, sorry,
Before that. Go, you go right
you're
ahead.
doing like
Barreling
I'm gonna give you
through.
like a 6 out of 10 on this storytelling here.
Sure.
We take our bags out of the car. We're ready to move in. We just had a great experience in Vero Beach, so we're just like, this is going to be great too.
Yeah.
We're going to unpack right
We
away.
put on some Michael Bublé.
Oh yeah, we just set
went
the mood,
to town packing.
unloaded all the little groceries.
Groceries.
Yeah, so we're fully unpacked at this point, right? We've been there for 10, 15 minutes. We're feeling the vibes. We're walking around the rooms. It's not a big place. It's like, 1,000, 1,200 square feet. It's not very big. And then all of a sudden, the smell, this clean smell, it starts to just like get a bit stronger.
And it becomes like very in the forefront of your mind. Like suddenly it's like, I can't think about Michael Bublé because all I'm thinking every 5 seconds is like, whoa, that's
What's
strong.
the smell? What's
whoa,
the smell?
That's strong.
Yeah. So I open up, there's a sliding door, there's a little outdoor patio. I go out there and I'm just like taking a break from the smell. And I'm like,
Because at this point, is this where your headache starts to
I'm
develop?
starting to feel a little tingle in my head of
And
like, this doesn't feel good.
I'm starting to feel like a weird, like kind of burny sensation in my lungs
Yeah,
is what
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
feeling.
Yeah. So I think you mosey on outside. You've fully unpacked. I'm
Yes.
fully unpacked.
Yes.
Groceries are all unpacked. We're like here. We're ready. The Wi-Fi is on 3 of my devices already. I'm outside. I'm just kind of like looking at my laptops in this little table, and I have a headache.
And listen, I don't know about you. I was afraid to say anything.
Yeah. Well,
because I didn't want to start with like a negative foot and everything.
And also, you know about me, I'm not a sensitive person.
Yes.
So I'll never say if anything is wrong.
Yeah.
Unless it's really
Airbnb
wrong.
The Airbnb could be like ripping off your limbs, and you'd be like,
I don't know.
I'm a little uncomfortable.
Were my feet out of the comforter? I deserved it. So you walk outside.
Again, been watching too much Walking Dead.
Yeah,
the
it's true.
metaphor I went with was that it was ripping
my
off your limbs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be
I
like,
need to
but it's
cool
nice
it.
here. It's going to look cool on Instagram. You walk outside, and I think we both look at each other, and I'm like, I have a headache right now from that smell. And I'm like, do you? You're like, yeah, I
Yes.
don't feel good. Like my chest is burning.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm actually feeling like feelings of anxiety. Like I can like feel my body is like charged up, and like my heart is racing a little bit. I was like, this is not good. So I send them a message on Airbnb. They're super responsive whole time. So I'm like, hey, like, has anybody ever mentioned the smell, like the chemical air freshener smell is like a little overpowering? Because it's like, I have a headache right now, and I'm not someone who complains. Like, I'm really trying to like tell this person I don't complain. And he writes back super quick. He's like, nope, never heard that before. Like, maybe you're just sensitive to it.
Which, by the way, I don't see how it's possible. They've never gotten this comment before.
So we're kind of like looking around. We're still standing outside. I'm like, I don't know what to do here. We need to go to the grocery store to get some more things.
No, that was actually, he goes.
No, I know. I'm saying like we're doing that. Then I get another message from him. It's like, hey, there are plug-in air fresheners in every room.
By this point, we've opened up doors and windows to try to air it out, and we're like, it's
There's
not getting
fans
better.
in every room. We turn all the fans on.
And then, of course, he comes back and he's like, yeah, there's those Febreze plugins in every single room. And we're like, well, that makes sense as to why it's not airing out.
So Carol throws her mask on, goes on a mission. I don't even want to go back in the house at this point. Comes out.
Did I Google like, can Febreze air fresheners like burn your lungs or something? Like, yes, by that point I have.
You come out with a handful of Febreze plugins, just like
and I go, where do you want me to put them? And he goes, toss them over there. He makes me put them in the grass in the corner of the backyard.
Yeah. So by this time we're like, we need to leave. Those are unplugged. We checked all the rooms. There's no more in the house. Let's leave for an hour. Like really take our time at a grocery store. You know, like when you go to a grocery store with no list and you're just there for like
it's been a long time since we did that.
So we went to the grocery store. We dawdled. We got some things. Too much junk food.
Was that super hard for you? Dawdling?
No, because at that point I just didn't want to
be. We were both like, we were like breathing in the parking lot. We were like, oh my God, I already feel better.
We were walking through the grocery store and I was like, do you feel better? Like I feel better. Like I'm feeling better already. We get back to the house. Long story made short. We walk back into the place. Boom! Smacked in the face with Febreze smell. It's not going away.
I have a look of panic on my face. Like, are we gonna have to? Because I was trying to stay open minded, but in my mind, I'm like, I do not feel safe sleeping here and breathing this in. Really, like I'm not trying to do the catastrophizing thing, but I was like, I'm paying attention to the signals my body is telling me, and it is telling me like, do not sleep here.
Yeah, and I'm with you. Like, as soon as we walk back in the house, that smell hits me, and like the headache starts to come back, and like I can feel like sinus pressure.
Yeah,
I'm just like, this is not healthy. Like, I don't want to be in a place that's this chemical full. And here's what I really think happened. I think the cleaning crew came. They saw the Febreze things were low. They plugged them all back in with new cartridges, and it was just like full blast, all brand new, and it just overloaded. Like, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. That's probably not that bad.
Yeah.
But it was awful. And so we sent them a message. They were incredibly gracious and were like, we're so sorry. We'll fully refund you, which on Airbnb doesn't happen all the time. So luckily your mom lives in town. So it was like 15 minutes away or 30 minutes away. We were like, hey, can we please come stay in your guest bed? She's never been happy in her entire life.
Been preparing for this for her whole life. She's like, I have pot roast
Towels
on.
are ready. I washed the sheets yesterday.
Are fresh. And I was like, Mom, did you do this?
Yeah,
I was like, did you strategize with this Airbnb to like kick us out?
So we packed up. We got all of our things. We got in the car. We drove to your mom's. We that night just had a lovely evening with your mom and your stepdad. I got on Airbnb, started did some re-scouting, which that's a lesson to learn for our travels next year is
to have backups.
Have some backups ahead of time. I found a great little place. This is where we're sitting right now. No Febreze plugins in sight. There was one plugin that you found, and we immediately unplugged it, and threw it on the floor.
The thing that is interesting to me about this, so first of all, the thing that we had to remind ourselves when this happened, your instinct is to be like, crap, like this, like, oh, unforeseen thing. But I was like, listen, we knew that, and we know that next year when we travel full time, we're going to get to places that aren't what we expect and that we're going to get curveballs. And so I really looked at it as an opportunity of like, how are we going to handle it next year when we're traveling? How would we want to handle that situation? So I kept thinking that. And so I felt like we did a really good job of just staying even keeled about it, coming up with a plan. And then I almost felt it was like a rite of passage to be like, okay, one of these Airbnbs did not work out. And it was a shame because it like was so well done.
Yeah.
And the thing that sucks about something like that is there's no way you can plan for it.
Nope.
You just can't. And it's not even like they did anything wrong because they thought, oh, I'm doing something nice for my guests.
Yeah.
But it just happened to be like too much. And so I don't know if going forward, that's something we should even ask is like, hey, do you guys use those?
Do you have Febreze
No, I'm being
plugins?
totally serious. Like that, because even the smell of it was on my clothing when we got to this new Airbnb. And I told Jason, I'm like, it's literally triggering me right now.
Yeah. Well, and I think the other thing just to share here to kind of wrap up our preamble, I know I have one more preamble top, but that'll be really fast, is making decisions based on like your health and your mental health over money.
Yes.
So we very like quickly were like, I want to leave. What's the cancellation policy? It was like a 50% refund. I looked at it and it was going to be like, literally the place was $1,400. We were going to get $400 back.
Yeah.
And we just decided, both of us, like, that's a lot of money, but $1,400 is not worth our long-term health.
Right.
And it's
of
not
course
worth,
that number is going to be different for everyone.
It is, but I just bring it up because I think for anybody in any situation, it's important to realize like, okay, if you can't afford to book another place, we would have just stayed with your mom, for 4 nights and it would have been fine.
Or found a hotel or something.
No, but I'm saying if we like money was really tough for us, really tight, we would have just stayed with your mom. We wouldn't have spent any money. That would have been our backup plan. We would have had a friend. Like there are always other options and not to stay in a place where your health is going to be jeopardized.
Yeah, because the thing I kept thinking is even if like we'll never know what the long-term impact of being in that chemical environment is, but I know what the short-term impact would have been. And I wasn't actually I have been in a really good place with my anxiety on this trip. And all I kept thinking to myself is like, this is going to trigger my anxiety being here. And it's going to ruin the rest of, not ruin, but like it could really negatively impact the rest of this trip. And I'm not willing to do that.
Yeah. Okay. Last preamble top, now that we're 20 minutes into the episode.
Oops.
Last preamble top is from a cinnamon rollers out there. What's up? How you guys doing? Thank you so much, by the way, on the wet cinnamon roll topic for just embracing the fact that wet cinnamon rolls are the right way to have a cinnamon roll.
Delicious.
Unless you're in a pinch and you need a dry cinnamon roll, it's better than no cinnamon roll. Also, I love the people on Instagram who send me DMs of all kinds of cinnamon roll related things.
Love it.
Bridget recently sent me cinnamon roll cookies. Claire sent me a cinnamon roll tower that someone baked. And she said, challenge accepted, question mark. And then there were a couple other ones of just like recipes to try.
Right.
What I wanted to bring up was when we were dawdling in the grocery store, one of my coping mechanisms to deal with this Febreze slap in the face was, well, now I want some cinnamon rolls because those make me feel good.
That made their way into their cart.
But what I'm not going to do is bake a whole batch here in an Airbnb. So I got some Annie's organic cinnamon rolls in the little canister that you twist and pop open and you throw in the oven.
When are we going to eat those?
We being me, I'm going to eat those tomorrow morning. That's my breakfast tomorrow. I'm very excited. But I also want to let the cinnamon rollers know I'm going to be making my at-home cinnamon rolls with my mom next week.
That's cute.
We haven't baked together in many years, but we always trade recipes and other things. So we're going to probably end up making a double batch because my grandparents are coming down. And then, it's just like, you got to have enough.
You got to have enough
for everybody.
Obviously.
So for all the cinnamon rollers out there, I do have to-go options. I'm not sure how it's going to go in Europe, but I'm sure I'll find something. And then I'm also going to be bringing my recipe with me as we go. Okay.
All right.
Let's get into some weird stuff that we do.
Okay.
Besides everything that we just talked about that's weird.
More weird stuff. So we thought it would be fun to do an episode. We realized we don't think we've talked about this much. You all know that we like to kind of brand ourselves as unboring business coaches.
Yeah.
And this element of unboring and fun kind of is a thread that runs through everything that we do because that's the type of people that we are. But we realized that we never did a full episode telling you all the different ways that we kind of infuse fun into our life and into our business. And we thought it'd be fun to go over some of those, and maybe it'll give you some ideas of just how to make your business more fun and realize that business is often portrayed as this like very serious thing. You can be professional without being boring.
Yeah, for sure. And if you want a little visual metaphor to go along with this to have fun, those little glass diffusers you have in the bathroom with the little sticks that point out?
Bold choice, talking about fragrance on the back end of that. Yes.
You know what I'm talking about,
yeah,
right?
reed diffusers, I think
they
what
got
they're
little
called.
Sticks that like point out of the water.
Yeah,
and, like, sucks
you
the
had
water
one
out.
of those in,
in
your house when we first met, and I was like, oh,
wow,
excuse me,
someone went to
Mr.
Bed Bath & Beyond.
Yeah.
I'd like everyone who can envision those. Every time we talk about one of these weird things, you're putting one more of the reed diffuser sticks into the liquid. So like right now, it's just a little canister that's empty, and each one of these is like a boop. You're putting it in there to diffuse.
To make things more fun?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're welcome.
That's a metaphor.
Boop.
Very appropriate.
Boop.
Do I understand the correlation? No, I do not. Okay. So the first thing. These are just all different ways that we make our business fun. The first thing is we love a stupid acronym.
Love a stupid acronym.
Okay.
Love it.
We use stupid acronyms all the time in our business.
Yeah.
Honestly, just first as like a mnemonic device, just to remember certain processes and things.
Yeah.
But you can ask our waivers, like we love a stupid acronym. So just off the top of our head, we could list 4, but I know there are more, and people will probably write in and be like, oh, you forgot about these ones. A couple of our stupid acronyms. POOT.
Poot.
POOT is our process for estimating time for a new project and deciding whether to do a new project. So it stands for plan, estimate, wireframe, and track. Do we do a full podcast episode?
I think we did a full episode on like processes.
If
and
not,
POOT was in there.
we were going to do a YouTube video, so we'll do that sometime in the future. But POOT. And it's just funny because we like fart jokes.
We love fart jokes.
And you know that if you listen to this. Okay, another one is, this was when we did our coaching session on doing an open and closed launch.
Yes.
We now have an acronym in our business called a JICLY.
A JICLY.
And
different than Geely. With Ben Hufleck.
Who's a Bennifer fan.
Yeah.
That was Jen and Ben, right? Geely?
That was Jen and Ben, sure was.
What am I thinking of? Okay, it was. I'm thinking of the Mariah Carey movie. That's Glitter. Glitter is what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
That's not the same word.
We don't use glitter.
JICLY stands for just in case launch idea.
Yes.
And so
JICLI.
And so oftentimes we'll come up with some type of like marketing idea on the second week of a launch. Like, oh, we'll do a live workshop on this, or we'll do an Instagram story thing on this. But it's a just in case idea. Like if the sales aren't where we want them to be, like it's sort of like another tactic that you can use to drum up sales.
Yep.
It's a JICLY.
It's a JICLY. Yeah.
Always have a JICLY in your back pocket. BASFA.
Okay, I'll take this one.
Take this one.
BASFA is my favorite because
BASSF.
Yeah,
I think there's 3 S's.
It doesn't matter. That's the whole thing about all these.
It is. There's 3 S's.
BASFA came about on this build a Squarespace site from scratch.
Start to finish.
Yeah. Which is so many things. On YouTube.
It was a series we did.
Yeah, and this has actually been our most successful series on YouTube. Yeah. We still get people finding these videos. It's now 2 years later, and we even get comments from people like, this video is 2 years old, but like still super helpful.
Yeah.
But I just in the past 24 hours, I've received emails from people like, hey, I found you through your BASFA. And they'll like write it out.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, it makes me so happy because that's like just a simple thing there of, yes, anyone can record Squarespace tutorials. Anyone can do that on YouTube. But to make it a series, okay, that's a one-up a little bit there. To tie it together in some way, okay, that's a one-up. But then to add the fun of like, okay, it has its own brand and then its own acronym that I remember you were probably so tired of me saying it.
I was so mad at you because I was like, this isn't a word. I was like, this doesn't make sense. And you were like, that's why it's memorable. And I was
Exactly.
like, it's absurd. There is no sense behind it. And I'm the one who always wants things to make sense.
Yes.
Like your reed diffuser metaphor. Like I'm
Yes.
really mad that I don't understand
We
it.
only
but,
have one sticking right now. Yeah.
but I also recognize that part of the reason that people, I think, resonate with your personality is it doesn't always make sense.
Yeah.
Like you're nonsensical. There's a very childlike quality about you.
Thank you.
Just like a little child.
But I think that's what fun is in a lot of
Yes.
ways. It's like the idea of fun, when you really think about it, is something for no purpose,
Yeah.
right? It's like play. You don't always have to have a reason behind it. I think it's a very like adult quality to try to apply a purpose and a reason to things and a logic. And so when you do things that are nonsensical, it comes off as being fun. So I was skeptical. But
I also think but like now you love it, right?
Love
Like
it
2
so
years
much.
later, yeah, love BASFA, and we really lean into the made up ones. Like Jiggly is like a perfect example.
Yeah.
Like anytime we can get one, like Passe was another one that we had,
Oh, what
which
was
was our
Passe?
writing formula.
that's our writing formula. Yeah.
And it was like, oh, other writing formulas are so passe, and it was spelled differently. But
Well, I just remembered the SOAR system.
Yeah,
wait,
exactly.
Wait,
In
In
Notion?
our Notion starter pack is based on a SOAR system. I think it's like set up, organize, act, and then review.
I remember-
And then Jason
I
used
remember-
an eagle sound across our videos. Like,
I remember it wasn't SOAR; it was something else. And I was like, it has to be SOAR.
Yeah,
Like,
you
it has to
came
get
in
it.
and you were like, I need you, because I was the one coming up with the system.
Yeah.
You were like, I need you to name it in such a way that
it's like
there's
memorable.
an acronym.
And this helps because it helps people remember it. It helps it stand out from other things. And
we almost made it the solar system. We were
almost
pissed we
made a
couldn't come up
solar
with an L.
system. Yeah. But the reason why something like BASFA, I just want to sit on for 1 second because I think it's really, really helpful for people. If you exist in a space where there's a lot of competition, there's a lot of people doing similar things, you have to do something to stand out. And you have to do something that might be a little bit different or weird or unique because that's what's going to resonate with people who you probably want to have in your audience or paying attention to you. And that doesn't mean that you have to go against what's your nature. Like if you're not a weird person, you're not a silly person, like you don't have to force that. But there's got to be a way that you can figure out how to make it unique. And so I just think BASFA is such a great example of when we first did it, you didn't love it. But it just, for me, was like, this is how I make it fun. Because
Right.
I don't love just recording Squarespace tutorials. Like, that's not fun
Right.
for me. But having it be fun, having it be a brand, having it be something silly, now, many years later, it's like, we have to do that with every project as much as we can. Like, we
Right.
don't do it with every single project because there are also just times when you just got to get the work done and get the thing done. But I just think if there's a little thing you could take away from that one is creating the acronym, creating a memorable name, something else. Like we have some other
Well,
ways
that's
to
what I
do
was
this
going to
too.
say. It doesn't have to be an acronym.
Yeah.
So that's what I want you to take away is acronyms work for us because we just like the nonsensical thing of that. But how can you brand your process in a way that feels fun? How
Yeah.
can you come up with characters in your business?
Which we'll talk about, yeah.
You know, stuff like that. So that's kind of the first way that we love a stupid acronym.
Yeah.
Another way that we infuse fun in our business, we love characters and themes.
Love a good character.
Love a good character,
Love a good theme.
made up character for no reason, and a good up theme.
So let's go back to 2020.
Mm-hmm.
We all remember 2020. We were working on the redesign of Teatree.
Yes.
So Teatree is our online course software. I started it in 2014. You did the original branding for it, which is just like a very simple, this like gear Apple logo kind of meshed together. And
It didn't really have branding. It had colors.
yeah, and it was very, very simple. And that
Mm-hmm.
was the whole, point back then was just like, it was nothing. There was nothing to it, no substance. But then as it evolved, we evolved. And so when we started to sit down to do the rebrand, I remember you cobbled together, and this is like the first time we ever look at any other course platforms because we just really try and stay in our own zone, build the thing we want to build.
I did sort of a competitive analysis. I said, okay, what are the brands look like of other course platforms so that we can carve out our own strategic branding around that? Like, how are we different?
Let's be weird for a second. Let's go ahead and name the brands, but not use their actual name. So like Bababi is one. There's like, you don't say the actual one, it just like rhymes with it.
Reachable.
Reachable, yeah. We have, hold on, what's another one? Porcera,
Partra.
Okay, great. Sodia. I love a good sodia.
Yeah. Man,
anyway,
a lot
so-
of people need to kick the soda.
So that's a perfect example, right? Like just doing something like that little exercise right there, if you're in a brainstorm, if you're in a planning meeting, like it changes the tone of what you're doing. It makes it more fun and it like puts you in a different mindset. That was just like a silly thing to show.
So that was a sidebar of the note was when we're doing meetings. Well, that's actually, you're skipping ahead.
No, but that's fine. Like I just wanted to like.
But
share
yes,
that.
when we do meetings and stuff, we do weird stuff like that. Where Jason's like, okay, tell me everyone's brand, but you don't use their actual names.
Don't use their actual names. So anyway, you did this analysis. You brought all these brands together.
Yes, and so when looking for a differentiator for us, something that it does help Tea Tree stand out is that we are a much smaller company, so it's just us that runs the business, and everybody else you notice in the core software platform kind of ultimately takes on this very not serious, but like because like Podia is still like a very fun brand.
I'm sorry, who?
Sodia is a very fun brand, but it takes on this sort of corporate looking thing because there's regulations and people want to be professional, whatever. Yeah. And so I said, okay, let's do something weirder that other people can't do. Let's use this to our advantage, the fact that we're small and that there's nobody at the top telling us we can't.
Yeah.
And so Jason said, I think we should come up with like a little mascot or some type of character that can represent the new brand and make it fun.
Could also be with you throughout the entire process.
That's true. It was
like that's the other thing that I think is really different. Just when you make that decision, like it's not just something that's in a logo. It's like you have this throughout the entire thing.
Right. And so I went hunting for different assets that I could use to build out this little brand. And I stumbled across this little monster illustration. And I sort of like tilted my head and I thought, he's so cute, but he's just like a squiggle monster.
Yeah.
And I said, Jason, is this weird? And you were like, yes.
No,
and I love it.
I was like, he's the idea monster. Like I remember like that's who he is. Like,
he's Iggy the idea monster. And so we built the entire new Tea Tree brand around this little idea monster who just looks so adorable and he's doing very cute things.
He's
like
rollerblading. He's upside down.
But he looks like this like dark squiggle monster. And so just weird stuff like that, embracing characters, embracing adding personality and life into whether it's your branding or different parts of your business that can greet your customers and bring like life to things.
Yeah, and my hope, and we've seen this, it's not like through the roof you've seen it with every customer, but we've seen a bunch of customers since the redesign rolled out and Iggy was on the homepage and he's throughout the entire app. We'll get people who sign up and they're like, I love this little mascot guy. Like it's so fun. It's so different from all the other course platforms I've tried.
Something to like grab onto with their brain. Like no one's going to email you and be like, just love the buttons that you designed. It's
you
like,
really rounded those corners well.
Yeah, but it gives them something to add life and not humanize because Iggy isn't a human, but in that way. And so another way that this whole character and theme thing shows up for us is we didn't even do this really intentionally, but when we launched Unboring Business Coaching way back in, I think, fall of 2019.
This is our monthly live coaching.
This is our monthly live business coaching. I remember our first session was on this idea. We wanted to do marketing. We were just like, how do you explain marketing to someone who feels like it's such a broad concept? And so we came up with this, surprise, surprise, metaphor of a bridge.
Put another reed diffuser in your glass. You're welcome.
Yeah. And so we built this entire story around a bridge and islands and castles. And if you've listened to our marketing bridge episode, you know that story. And unintentionally, again, it was not strategic, but it was just like, I want to like introduce the metaphor to people so that they understand what we're saying when we say bridge throughout this whole thing. We found this cute little GIF sticker of a hedgehog with a book open on Jiffy. And I thought, that's cute. I'll put a little campfire. Like he's reading a story around a campfire. And that's going to be story time where we tell people, okay, here's the story that is the backbone of this entire coaching session, right? Well, of course, we do the first one and people are like, he's such a cute little hedgehog. Like, what's his name? I think Ray Chili was the one who was like, his name's Hoggy. Yeah. And so then we were like, okay, he's Hoggy the hedgehog. He always introduces our story time. And you just like, you allow your community to also be a part of the fun with you.
Absolutely.
And you do a yes and. If you're not familiar with improv, that's sort of the rule in improv is you don't shoot down someone's ideas, you build on it, right? So you say, yes, his name is Hoggy and he introduces story time and
he loves massages.
He just wants a massage.
He can't get them, but he loves them.
And so Hoggy became our Storytime mascot. Well, when it came time to do the next month's coaching session, I looked at Jason and I said, well, okay, whatever the topic is, I think it was website design. I was like, well, we got to have a story time. We got to have Hoggy in there. And that became the basis of our Unboring coaching sessions. There was always a story. There was always a metaphor. this is not something that I have seen other people do, you know?
Yeah, and I think our Wandering Aimfully members will say that it's some of their most exciting part of the monthly coaching is to just like, okay, what's the story going to be this month?
Just live in the story.
And we know because we changed the theme of our coaching 2 months ago now, and Hoggy wasn't in there.
We did the first one and people were like, where's Hoggy?
Like
and
we
were
literally
like,
had a moment where like our members were like, is Hoggy not coming? Like, what is going on? And it's so funny because we redid everything. We went to this different format called Unsolved Businesses.
Yeah.
And so it has this whole detective theme and case.
Which
and
is also an example of this.
Of doing
by,
this,
by switching up the format, but adding this entire detective theme to it to make it fun about investigating your business.
Yeah. And I think we had all these new kind of like quote unquote characters, not even like characters themselves, but like, okay, we got the light that shines, we have the evidence papers, we got file folders, we got detective things, all these new things. We just forgot about Hoggy. Like, we literally forgot.
People let us know which you know that you have created something that people resonate with when you take it away and they tell you about it,
Absolutely.
which is really cool.
Yeah.
So think about next time you do your project, I don't know, ask yourself, is there a way for me to add some type of theme or some type of story element to this that could make it a little bit more sticky or a little bit more lighthearted?
Yep.
And just allow yourself the freedom to make it fun and sort of out of left field.
All right, let's throw another read diffuser in the...
Another read diffuser. Another way that we add fun to our business is, Jason alluded to it before, but we just do weird stuff in meetings and in our daily getting work done to like switch up the energy.
Yeah.
And this takes a little bit of creativity. It's so easy to fall into like old patterns and to just be like, oh, I'm doing my to-dos and blah, blah, blah. But simple things like, I remember we went through a period of time where we were doing our Monday morning meetings.
Yes.
And for a while, the rule was each person has to bring a song. And then it would be so fun because it would be like, you know.
I brought Sum 41 Fat Lip. And you're like, oh, hold on.
Hold on. Then I'm like, All American Rejects, you know, like. Little stuff like that where it only takes 10 minutes, but it totally changes the delight and the fun that you come into that meeting with. We do dance breaks. You do weird stuff like when I'm stressed out, you're like, stand up.
Yeah.
You like shake out my arms.
Yeah, I like move you around like you're a robot, like a tin man. I love trying to force you to yell "Come to Yeehaw!" Like it's just like
love that.
Which Orange County we're putting on our movie
Classic
list to
movie
watch.
night, yeah.
But just it's these moments in running a business where the mundane doesn't have to be so mundane, and you can do that just by infusing in some different things. So if you're not a weird person, you're not a silly person, like I'm very weird. I love doing weird things. It comes
naturally. Your brain just.
But you might be the person who's like, oh, I need to make a cup of tea and put on my favorite album before I start a meeting, and that at least like gets me in like the mental space to like this meeting doesn't have to suck. Like I can start it really well. Or you know, if you're someone who just you don't like going through your like monthly bills or your expenses or whatever, you know, like maybe you have like puppy playtime with your dog. Every time you're going to do monthly expenses, you have to do puppy playtime first.
Right.
And it creates these different pathways in your brain of this thing doesn't have to suck because I can associate something else with it and train myself to know, okay, this is not so bad.
Yeah. You could ask yourself just before you, like, how could this not suck?
Yeah.
Like, and then do that. You know, if your brain isn't like ours, which just is always constantly very naturally gravitating towards weird things, or asking yourself, what if?
Yeah.
What if I ...
Yeah.
Another thing is we love to turn things into a game for no reason.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
for example, I just finished up yesterday doing the final numbers for our launch.
Yes.
So this is how many, like I double checked everything. This is how many sales we got. This is how many affiliates we got. This is how much total revenue we added. And I just made Jason guess all of them with no consequences whatsoever.
That, and you would have thought I was on like a game show, like American Ninja Warrior.
Yes.
Like I got up and I was like, okay, like I got in a stance. And you know, it's just like, it's those things that make it fun to run a business your own way and to like have your own thing. And also that bleeds into life. Like we're at this Airbnb, it has a pool. There's this weird like floating hoop, but it's not a hoop. And then there's like these rings that you throw in it. And we just called it water sports game.
Made up an entire game.
I made up a point system for it.
So arbitrary.
And then the game was to a total of 21 points in the pool, throwing these rings at this thing, taking turns. I arbitrarily said after a couple turns you could move it.
Yeah.
And then at the end, when I had 20 points, it became the boss round.
And I was like, what's the boss round?
And Caroline had a noodle, and I was like, you got to protect this thing. And I went and dunked on it, and I won, you know?
Yeah.
But it's stuff like that I just... I don't want to lose doing that as often as possible in life and in business, because it makes, yes, having a pool is nice, but like it's super boring just to like be in a pool for 20 minutes and like
how can you make it fun?
Yeah,
how
like,
can you embrace your own
and we'll
childlike
remember
qualities?
that. Like we will remember water sports game, and we'll probably never play it again after this Airbnb, but it was fun.
Totally. And even something as simple as like, okay, I got to get back to these email responses. Like, how many emails can I get done? And those little things that you used to do as a kid, like, all right, I'll time you. Go run to the fridge and get popsicles.
I'm going to grab an Oreo. I'm going to break it into 12 pieces. And if I can get through these 12 emails, I get one bite of Oreo after every email, whatever
just
those
fun stuff like that. The other thing we have here is just a simple one, which is just emojis and GIFs.
Yeah,
emojis and GIFs.
This is one of those that I think people don't do because they want to look more professional.
Right.
And I do understand in a context of like, if you work a 9-to-5 job and like your boss is going to give you a hard time if you do it, like I understand there's some things there. But I just think, especially if you run your own business and you love GIFs and you love emojis, stop holding back.
Embrace it.
And I am just all about sharing GIFs and emails and surprising people with GIFs. And like someone will send an email and like, oh, their email got unsubscribed and I got to fix it. And like, instead of just sending back like, you're all set, like I send back like something silly, from like The Mask or whatever, and it's a little bit nonsensical, but then that person is like, that's one of my favorite movies, and like you just create this moment of joy out of something that's very mundane. And again, I think that's kind of like a recurring theme of this.
I think it's also interesting that at this point in time, the apps and the technologies that are really excelling, the TikToks of the world, or like the Snapchat did it first with like the filters, but then of course Instagram filters now, story filters, all of that stuff is sticky because I think people are joy starved. Like we want to feel like kids again. There's so much terrible stuff happening in the world. We can't ignore that, but we need some balance. We need to remind ourselves that fun is possible, that delight is possible. And I think embracing that is actually a way to allow people to draw closer to you, not to turn them away.
Yeah. I have a pro tip for those of you who want to make your own GIFs of you or of like your house or your work or whatever. So one is, if you're a Vimeo user, Vimeo is a video sharing platform like YouTube, but it's different. If you upload a video to Vimeo, so let's say you sat at your desk and you just did like a thumbs up pose to the camera, and you did like a writing, and you did like a shrug, like I don't know, and you did like a party.
You're recording this as video.
You're recording this as a video.
Yeah.
You upload that video of you doing all those silly things. When you upload it, there's a little GIF capture feature where you can just select a part of the clip and export that part as a GIF.
Yep.
So you can just like really quickly make GIFs. Now, if you don't use Vimeo, there's another option for you, and it's an app called GIF Brewery. I think it's GIF Brewery 3. I don't know why the number's in there. But this is, I think, a Mac only app, but it's free. You can download it so you could still record the video, but then just play the video on your laptop, and then you just record your screen, or you can add the
GIF
video.
Brewery is really great for turning screen recordings into GIFs.
You can also import a video
I
as
know,
well.
but I'm just saying that's what I love that for. Also, the app that I like to use on my phone is called Image Play, IMG Play.
Yeah.
And you can turn video clips on your phone into GIFs, or the other way around, you can turn GIFs into.
And I think like branded GIFs of your own business and of you or any of those things, they are super fun. They also like, it's a next level way of someone going like, wow, the attention to detail here is great. Like we're eventually going to have a handful of them made for Teachery with Iggy, where when I like fix someone's like, password issue or whatever, Iggy can be the response back with like a big thumbs up.
Yeah. I just shared on our Instagram page something about that, the reel that I did talking about like picking out GIFs for our coaching sessions.
Yeah.
And somebody in the comments, I haven't checked it out yet, said, so-and-so is making me custom GIFs for my brand.
Nice.
So if you're like, I don't feel technically savvy enough, go to that reel. It's the one that's the Ursula from Little Mermaid, and it's about me picking GIFs. Look in the comments, and you'll find someone who does that as a service, which is cool.
Love it.
Okay, second to last one.
Another reed diffuser. Bing.
Another reed diffuser is a little bit related to the acronym one, but creating your own language.
Yeah.
So this takes a lot of like repetition, but I think creating a shared language between you and your community, even, we have things that are just for us, but also between us and our community. So we just make up words.
Yeah.
This is how we make it fun.
Yeah. I'm in the kitchen and I'm like, you know what? It's time for a snack. I'm going to make a smoothie. No, I'm not. I'm going to make a smoothie.
I don't even know how smoothie happened because
Well, I think it went like
it
this.
like devolved.
I think it went, do you want a smoothie? And you go, yeah, I want a smoothie. And I was like, oh, you want a smoothie? And you're like, yeah, I want a smoothie.
smoothie.
You're like, oh, you want a smoothie?
Ew. And then it like turned into baby talk.
But now it's like, so do you want a smoothie?
Do you want a smoothie?
It's just a word for smoothie.
Yeah, and like, you know, that's a life example, but moving on to business examples. So I'll tell you another way that this devolved. We were coming up with a process for creating our YouTube videos.
Yeah.
And so we were like, okay, we'll film the video and then you'll edit the first cut and then you'll upload it to this software we use called frame.io. And then, you know, you'll go through it and comment on different places that you can add your little like twinkles to it. And I was like, oh, twinkles. And you're like, yeah, your twinkles and your dinkles and your stinkles. And I was like, okay. And so now the term that we have coined for adding graphics, whenever you watch our YouTube videos, if you see
little GIF stickers
a GIF
or whatever.
sticker or a graphic come on screen, those are called dinkles.
Those are dinkles.
And that's just what they're called.
They're not
and
called edits. They're called dinkles.
Yeah. And also it's a weird, like it's much shorter to say a dinkle than say like the graphics that come on screen in a YouTube video.
Yeah, like I need
know?
a dinkle right here. Like this needs a dinkle.
This needs a dinkle. Add a dinkle.
That's fun.
And so that's one that we've come up with. A good example of this is preamble tops. So this is where we have ones that we just use, but then we have ones that we include with all of you all that are listening. And I feel like it creates a shared language, almost like an inside joke where with your community, you have words that mean certain things that bonds you closer together. So those of you who listen to the show, you know what preamble tops are. Those of you who listen to the show know what a cinnamon roller is.
Heck yeah. You're not a lawyer.
Cinnamon roller. You're a
no,
roller.
See, you tried.
Where are my rollers at? Where are my rollers at?
They're not.
They are.
They are not.
The poll was so close, Jason.
The cinnamon roll poll?
Yes, the cinnamon roll poll.
Okay. What else we got? We got one more?
Yeah. So the last final tip to all of this, and I hope that this has just given you some fun ideas about how to, and maybe not even ideas, but maybe just a recommitment to making your business more fun.
Or a permission slip. If you're someone who's been like, I've wanted to push the envelope, but I felt afraid to because people are going to judge me or I'm not going to look like a professional. Like, if you own your own business, it's not so much as important to look like a professional anymore as it is to stand out.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean you have to be weird. That doesn't mean you have to be, wild and silly like we are. But it just means you have to stand out because it's all so crowded now.
Right.
So the worst thing you can do is just exist in the sea of sameness with everybody else. You have to stand out and you have to kind of like raise your flag and whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah. And the last thing I wrote here is just to bring a yes and attitude above everything.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you, it just makes... If you're going to be in business for the long haul, you have to enjoy the process.
Yeah.
And enjoying the process is always going to be better when it's fun. When you wake up and you go, oh, I want to be doing this.
I think a perfect example is you were working on Tea Tree's rebrand forever, right?
So
like it was
long.
months. When Iggy got introduced, it like recharged you to work on it.
Right.
And like gave you this new fuel to get excited about. Now, there's a slippery slope there because you could be working on stuff forever if you just like continue to add more fun things to it. So you have to know yourself. And you have to know when like, okay, I can't add any more fun to this. Like it's fun enough. But I think the point is that you want to have that yes and mentality, and that yes and mentality can actually like get you through maybe something you've been stuck on or something you haven't
and I
worked
think
on.
of it like a yes and mentality with yourself.
Yeah.
So when you catch yourself having that thought of like, oh, could I add a little weird this?
Yeah.
Whatever those weird impulses that you have, kind of not shooting yourself down, not, as we say, bringing an umbrella to a brainstorm.
Don't do it.
But saying, yeah, could that work? Like, why don't I try it? Or this feels a little weird, but maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that weird impulse is now, like Jason's pointing out, a way for me to actually stand out in a crowded marketplace.
Yeah.
And maybe I should embrace that a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So if you come away from this episode and you're like, I am going to do something weird, and you start doing it, we would love to know about it. Like, let us know if you've done something weird, you've changed something. hello@wanderingaimfully.com. Would love to just know, like, hey, I was doing these videos and now like I'm doing dinkles myself and like here's how I changed them. Or I had this like branding package and I renamed it after my dog because I just love my dog and I want people to like meet my dog.
I had a
cool.
penguin suit lying around and I decided to change my Instagram profile photo to me in a penguin suit.
Yeah, like Elizabeth, who just joined Wayne, she wears that giraffe hoodie and like
perfect example.
It's a very memorable thing.
Yes.
And also giraffe hoodie is cool. Like
very
that's a
cool.
fun thing. All right, let's get into some classic movies.
Okay, we have two movies.
We we're watching movies on the road because for those of you who didn't pick that up from last episode or this episode, we're traveling for 3 weeks right now, so we're trying to figure out our classic movie night.
If you didn't pick that up for the 20-minute preamble.
It's true. So we had 2 movies last night. I had not seen the first one. I'd never even heard of it until you told me about it.
You had never heard of it. I had seen it when I was younger, and now I rewatched it, and I was like, probably was a little advanced for when I watched that.
So that was Murder by Numbers.
Murder by Numbers. This is a movie with Sandra Bullock, Ryan Gosling when he was 18.
Yeah, okay, we're going to get to that in a second.
We're going to get to that.
And then the second movie was Fun with Dick and Jane.
Yes. So let's talk about Murder by Numbers first.
Interesting thing about both of these movies, they're both remakes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Murder by Numbers isn't a remake. It's just
It's a 4th time remake of a story.
I love you so much.
Well,
it's not a remake.
I get you.
It is an interpretation of a real life event.
Yeah. It's been made 4 times, though.
Yes.
Someone made it and they remade it.
But a totally different story angle of it.
Very interesting fact about this movie is that it's based on 1924. This actually happened.
Crime or something. But anyway, it's dark. I'm not going to lie to you.
Premise of the movie, real quick.
Oh, sure.
2 young...
Well, no, I know. You're going to spoil it.
Spoiler alert. Anytime we do these reviews, it's spoiler alert.
It's not. You could say what the plot of this movie is without spoiling it.
Go ahead.
Okay. 2 young high school boys.
Yes.
Become
if you just
entangled in a murder.
Wow, this is so different than what I was going to say that doesn't spoil anything.
And a local detective.
I love that you're like, don't spoil it. And now
has to
watching you go through
untangle the pieces. Okay.
2
young boys murder Sandra Bullock.
Here's the thing. They do not. Here's the thing about classic movie night. I think we should give ourselves permission moving forward.
I didn't mean 2 young boys murder Sandra Bullock. I meant 2 young boys, murder, Sandra Bullock, period.
Okay. I think we should give ourselves permission moving forward that we can just do full spoilers in our classic movie nights. Because here's the thing. We're doing 2 movies every single week. The likelihood that someone...
Okay, but can I bring you a counterpoint?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Someone's listening.
Yeah.
Like you, they haven't...
Who is it? Which listener?
Micah.
Micah's listening.
She hasn't heard of Murder by Numbers.
Yeah.
She wants to listen so that she can see if she's interested. Now she has to turn off the podcast just because she's mildly interested in the movie Murder by Numbers?
Here's the thing about a movie like Murder by Numbers. I could have told you the entire movie as we started watching it what was going to happen.
That's not true. There were twists. We said the first thing in our notes. You want me to read our notes? Interesting, twisty plot.
Yeah, it didn't mean it
Very
I didn't know what it
slow.
was. I just meant it was a good twist. It's a good...
So there is a twist, now you're admitting.
No, yeah. I'm going to slaughter these feet.
Don't. My feet are poking
Your feet are out. Anyway.
This is our notes.
Yeah.
Can I read our notes?
Yeah, sure.
Interesting, twisty plot.
Yes.
Very slow. Lots of inherent misogyny.
Yeah.
You guys know we like to comment on when things
Yeah.
are not with the times, which we know for obvious reasons they're not with the times, but we like to give you a content warning.
Yeah.
Sandy B is great.
Yes.
Fun just because vintage Ryan Gosling.
Yes.
That's what I wrote.
Yeah.
I will give you content warnings.
Yeah.
It's dark.
Yeah.
It's a lot of there's some domestic abuse storylines.
Yeah.
There's obviously violence against women
Yes.
storylines. So just be careful with that.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to tread into the dark places.
And then also, as you're watching it, if you do watch this movie, try not to get distracted by the fact that Sandy B and Ryan G were dating.
Yeah, I said I didn't they date after this? And Jason was like, "Wait, isn't there age difference?" It's an 18-year age difference.
He was 18,
17 years.
She was 35. I don't often worry too much about this type of thing.
About the age differences?
But when you get into that territory...
When you're a teen.
When you get into that territory, I don't love it. I'm going to be honest.
I don't love it.
I don't love it. Now, Ryan G, very advanced. He's a very advanced man, but I just don't love it. And I'm now thinking back to this movie, and I'm like, I don't love it.
I don't love the idea that you just got your driver's license 2 years ago.
Yeah. So anyway, the movie was...
There's a power dynamic. That's what it is.
The movie was entertaining. The movie was, again, a good twisty plot. To me, it was just the pace of the movie was
so
just
slow.
it was very, very slow.
Yeah, and I think because I had seen it before, I was not too annoyed by the pace because I had was just already in because I knew,
Yeah.
but I get that. So I gave it a 7.5 potatoes.
Yep.
You gave it 6 potatoes.
I gave it 6 potatoes, yeah. And I think that's fair. Like, it is an enjoyable movie as you watch it.
This is the Rotten Potato
This
scale.
is our Rotten Potato scale for Micah and whoever
it's
else.
not Rotten
Sergio?
Tomatoes
Is
for
that
us.
the other person? I have no idea.
Sean.
He goes by Sergio, though.
True.
Yeah. Okay, so our second movie of the night was Fun with Dick and Jane.
Moving on
You
to-
mentioned before we even started this.
Okay. Yeah. I remember distinctly. Well, this makes more sense because this movie came out in.
2005.
It did?
Yeah.
Okay. So I would have been, whatever, like a junior in high school. But I remember.
I was getting my first job.
I think I
was out of college. I got my first job.
Yeah,
That's
well,
crazy.
maybe we need to reckon with our age difference then.
Well, we're 6 years apart, and you were in your 20s, and I was in my 20s. I think we're doing okay.
That's true.
Yeah.
So I just had this like preconception of this movie. I told Jason I'd never seen it before, and I think it's specifically, I don't know what I had against the title Fun with Dick and Jane. Okay, can I tell you my irrational thing?
I just think this is so funny. Like, to not watch a movie because the name of the movie irks you.
Because I think it's based on something, like a book or something.
Yeah,
You know, the whole like
there's
see
another
Dick,
movie,
see
yeah.
Jane, whatever.
Yeah.
But that simplicity like really
Bothers
rubs
you.
me the wrong way. Maybe it's because I'm such a chatty Cathy and
You
I like
are.
being verbose. But the sentence structure of the title Fun with Dick and Jane really bugs me.
Yeah.
And that is the absolute irrational preconception that I guarded my heart with this movie.
never saw it.
And never saw it.
Yeah, so this movie stars Jim Carrey at the peak of his career, basically. Taya Leone at like the kind of like upswing of her career.
Yeah, she's great.
She's fantastic. And Alec Baldwin at like the peak of his career as well. And why those are kind of interesting to say, the budget of this movie.
They spent a ridiculous amount on this movie.
You couldn't guess it. If you're listening to this and you're like, oh, it's a Jim Carrey movie. Okay, yeah, like they started paying him money, like $40 million
I guess
to be
30,
high.
yeah.
100 million.
100 million.
It's insane. That's insane. Also, there's no way Taya Leone got paid in matching the men that got paid.
Which
in this
she
movie.
should have,
Which she
'cause
should
she
have.
was
Absolutely.
great.
She was fantastic. Anyway, the plot of this movie is if you know the story of Enron or any one of these big, huge companies that basically like defrauds the company or defrauds stockholders or just is like a fake company essentially, it's that in a fictitious company. And Judd Apatow was one of the writers in the movie. Jim Carrey was actually a producer on the movie. But it's the whole idea of this guy, Jim Carrey's character, Dick.
He's been working the corporate ladder for 15
forever.
years.
He finally gets a big break, only to find out that his big break was to be the fall man for this company. And Alec
then
Baldwin
they
is the CEO.
And then all their money gets taken away.
Yes.
And like, how do they cope?
Yeah, and how do they change everything? And so it's an interesting movie to watch in 2021 because there are certain parts of it that you're like, that's just early 2000s, not funny. We thought it was funny. We don't do that anymore. But like,
There's a lot of cheap Mexican tropes, I would say, used as humor.
yeah. And you watch it now and you're just like,
It's so
objectively,
unnecessary.
it's not even funny.
Yeah.
Like it really like, and I think it's just because now we know, but even back then it's just like, why are like, okay, so we're just
Like
making fun of this group of people.
Yeah, and there's like an entire scene that's literally the joke is deportation.
Yeah,
I'm like,
and-
that's not funny.
It's not funny at all, especially nowadays. And that is part of this movie where it's like, it's cringy because you know that they can do better, right? Like you get to a scene later in the movie where Jim Carrey and Taya Leone are robbing this guy and they're wearing these suits and they have these voice modulators.
Yeah.
And Jim Carrey goes on like a 3-minute tear of just doing like funny things.
Like being
he's
a robot.
Being a
or like-
robot, like doing a voice, like just... And
that's where the movie shines.
oh
is
my
like
gosh,
that
I'm like, if this
physical
was an
comedy
hour and a
stuff.
half of this,
Yeah.
the movie would have been a 10 out of 10 all day long.
Yeah, well, it's also very telling to rewatch a movie from 15 years ago where the crux of the joke is two affluent white people robbing places to get money and like, ha ha ha,
No.
that's funny.
Yeah.
And then there's no repercussions or
At all.
consequences. And
Yeah.
so you're just like, yeah, I can imagine. I mean, I don't want to speak for people of color ever, but I can imagine watching these people and the joke is that they're robbing
Getting
people
away with it, yeah.
and that that's supposed to be funny,
Yeah.
where there's plenty of people who get assumed to be criminals when they're not.
Yeah.
And get put in jail for much lesser things. But anyway, I know some of you are like, it's not that serious, but it's like, it is, let's rewatch some of these things with a little bit of a more discerning eye.
And honestly, I think that's why we like sharing these classic movies with you too in this podcast, is because we get to kind of talk through them and also understand and realize, hey, if you keep any of these things in your head of like, oh, that's a movie I love from my childhood, it's like, yeah, but go back and challenge that. Because I know that's a big thing for me with a lot of these movies. Like, like Gone in 60 Seconds last week, I was talking about, like, I remember loving that movie when I saw it as like a 21-year-old. And now as a 39-year-old watching, I'm like, I don't like this movie. Yeah, like I don't like the way that it treats characters and people and things. And
I think it's interesting. I know we've talked about this a little bit before, but it has turned, especially over the past, like, I would say year and a half, as we've just brought more critical thought into our daily lives about questioning our privilege and all of those different things and seeing things from a different perspective. It almost is this weird re-education going back through all of these movies, because it allows you to see them through a different lens and to almost see the gap between what we know now and how we existed back then. And it becomes a very interesting conversation starter for especially both of us to just chat about things and be like, oh, why do we think that was okay? Or, why did society as a whole think that was okay? Or here's how this is different now, And even certain things where you're just like, so a good example, I think I wrote down in my notes about Murder by Numbers, where I wrote down like just a thread of misogyny, and it's like, I can't put my finger on it. It's not like anyone is there. It's the fact that, like, so easily a central element of this plot is like a woman tied up on a bed and she's the victim of a crime. And like, stuff like that. It's like, now we know how prevalent, violence against women is and stuff like that. So it allows you to take this like feeling that's very, you can't put your finger on it, to now educate yourself and go, oh, well, let me learn more about that. Yeah,
and I think for me too, again, like going back to the point of like why we share some of these reviews of movies that like, and there's a couple we haven't even talked about on this because we just don't even want to talk about them. Like we've turned them off or whatever. But I think this is a good example of one that's like, I don't know that I would recommend you to go back and rewatch it, but I might, just for you to go back and be like, oh yeah, like I don't like the way that they did the Mexican tropes throughout the whole thing. Like, and I want to be more aware of that when I watch other movies in the future of like, oh, I don't want to support that type of movie or what have you moving forward. That being said, the scene where Jim Carrey is up in the ceiling and falls onto the desk and onto the floor, and he actually hurt himself, but they left it in the movie because it was so convincing.
And I called it in the movie. I'm like, oh, he hit his head hard.
Like, those are the moments of like, you don't see that from many other people other than actors like Jim Carrey in movies like this. That's like real
ultimate commitment to physical comedy.
And like you see that, like that's the one thing about this movie that I would recommend if I was going to recommend someone who like loves Jim Carrey. Just seeing him in his prime and his physical humor, like the way he runs with his shoulders shrugged forward gets me every time. And
so committed.
It's that stuff that I'm like, I wish as a director and a writer back then, you could have just seen that as the charm that is him. And every funny part of this just needs to play up on that.
Yeah,
like that's
you didn't need
like
all the other stuff.
You don't need all the other stuff. So anyway, what was our Rotten Potatoes?
We both gave it 5 potatoes.
5 potatoes, yeah. Because honestly, it would have gotten 4 potatoes for me, but the scene with the voice modulation gave it a full potato.
I wrote that. You said Jim Carrey's physical comedy moments are the best. The voice changer.
Yeah, if you just want to, honestly, you want to skip the movie.
And Tay Leone, they were so great together.
They were.
They had a really good
If you just want to search YouTube for Fun with Dick and Jane, like voice scene or like
maybe
robot scene, it'll probably come up. It's worth just watching it that way.
He's great.
Okay. All right. Those are our movies. That's our podcast episode for you this week. Next week we'll be at a new Airbnb. Maybe we'll have a saga to share about some air fresheners hitting us in the face. Hopefully we won't.
If you use Febreze air fresheners,
don't do it.
I want to encourage you to
stop. To stop. That's our big takeaway from this episode. Please stop using Febreze air fresheners. Febreze, the sponsor of not this podcast.
Never.
Okay, bye.
Goodbye. Thanks for listening.